Why did God allow Lot to have children with his daughters? The story of Lot is one of the most haunting narratives in the Bible. A tale of a man who once walked in righteousness, but found himself entangled in the corruption of a wicked city. Lot, the nephew of Abraham, lived in Sodom, a place so steeped in depravity that God himself decreed its destruction. But before fire rained down from the heavens, an event so shocking took place that it forces us to question morality, desperation, and divine justice. As the men of Sodom surrounded Lot's house, demanding to violate his angelic guests, Lot made a horrifying choice. He offered his own daughters in their place. What kind of father would make such an offer? How had his morality fallen so far? Though the angels intervened, saving Lot and his family, the nightmare was far from over. After Sodom's destruction, Lot and his daughters fled to the mountains, where fear, isolation, and despair led to an even darker act. His daughters intoxicated him and committed incest, believing they had no other choice. Why did God allow this to happen? Was this a form of judgment, a consequence of Lot's choices, or something deeper? This exploration will unravel the chilling details, historical context, and spiritual lessons behind one of the Bible's most disturbing stories. But before we move further, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to support our growth and help spread the teachings of the Bible to reach more souls. Stay with us as we explore the shocking depths of this biblical mystery. Lot's journey to Sodom did not begin with wickedness, but with a choice, a decision that at first seemed harmless. When Abraham and Lot stood together surveying the land, their flocks and herds had grown too large to remain together. To maintain peace, Abraham gave Lot the freedom to choose where he would settle. Lot lifted his eyes and saw the fertile plains of Jordan, lush and well-watered, like the garden of the Lord. But this paradise had a dark secret. It led directly to Sodom, the most corrupt city of its time. Without hesitation, Lot chose the land that promised prosperity, but in doing so, he unknowingly stepped closer to a moral abyss. Sodom was infamous for its wickedness. The Bible describes its people as great sinners before the Lord. The city was a stronghold of perversion, violence, and rebellion against God. Greed, pride, and indulgence consumed its people. The cries of the oppressed rose to the heavens, and divine judgment loomed. Yet, despite its reputation, Lot did not just move near Sodom, he gradually became part of it. At first, he merely pitched his tent near the city. Then, he moved inside its walls. Soon, he was sitting at its gates, a position of leadership, showing that Lot had become a respected figure in this wicked place. His wealth and status grew, but so did his compromise. Lot's choice to live in Sodom was not an instant descent into sin, but a slow erosion of values. He still considered himself righteous, yet he raised his family in a city that celebrated sin. He tolerated the corruption around him, and over time, his standards weakened. Sodom had changed Lot. One fateful evening, two angels, appearing as men, arrived in Sodom. They were sent by God to rescue Lot and his family before the city's destruction. Lot, recognizing their divine nature, urgently invited them into his home. He knew the danger they faced if they remained in the streets. As night fell, a chilling scene unfolded. The men of Sodom surrounded Lot's house, both young and old, demanding that the strangers be brought out to them so they could violate them. This was not just a crime of lust, it was an act of domination and cruelty, a testament to how deeply depraved the city had become. Then, in an act that still shocks readers today, Lot made a horrifying offer. Instead of protecting his daughters, he was willing to sacrifice them. "Please, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have two daughters who have never known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof." Lot, the father who should have protected his daughters with his life, was now bargaining with their innocence. Why? Was it fear, desperation, a twisted sense of hospitality? Or had living in Sodom corrupted his morals so much that he had lost all sense of right and wrong? His daughters must have heard his words. What must they have felt in that moment? The man who was supposed to protect them was now offering them to be abused by an entire city. This was the moment their trust in him shattered. But the men of Sodom were so consumed by their wicked desires that they rejected Lot's offer. Instead, they turned on him, mocking him and preparing to break down his door. At that moment, divine intervention arrived. The angels struck the men with blindness, rendering them powerless. They pulled Lot back inside and commanded him to flee with his family. Judgment had come. Sodom would burn. As dawn broke over Sodom, the city remained oblivious to its impending doom. The angels, having witnessed the wickedness firsthand, urged Lot to flee immediately with his family. Yet, in a moment that reveals the depths of human hesitation, Lot lingered. Was it the weight of leaving behind everything he had built? Was it fear of the unknown? The Bible does not say, but the urgency of the angels could not be ignored. They grabbed Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters by the hands and led them out of the city, for God was merciful. Genesis 19:16. The moment their feet left the city limits, a horrifying spectacle unfolded. The sky darkened, and from the heavens rained fire and brimstone, a storm unlike any the world had ever seen. Buildings crumbled, streets melted under the heat, and screams filled the air as the wicked faced the wrath of the Almighty. Smoke rose like a great furnace, blotting out the sun, and within moments, Sodom and Gomorrah ceased to exist. A region that once flourished with life was now a barren wasteland of desolation. Lot and his daughters ran, but his wife's heart was still in Sodom. Perhaps she mourned the luxurious home she was leaving behind. Perhaps she grieved friends and acquaintances who were now perishing in the flames. Or perhaps, in a moment of doubt, she questioned whether this destruction was truly the will of God. Whatever the reason, she disobeyed the divine command and turned back. In an instant, judgment struck her. She was frozen in time, her body transforming into a pillar of salt. The Bible does not explain the exact nature of this punishment, but its meaning is clear. Longing for what God has condemned leads to destruction. Lot and his daughters, now utterly alone, could not turn back for her. The fiery city continued to burn behind them, but the lesson was seared into their hearts forever. Lot's wife serves as a timeless warning about the dangers of attachment to a sinful past. Half obedience is disobedience. She had left Sodom physically, but not in her heart. True deliverance requires both external and internal transformation. God's instructions must be followed completely. Ignoring a single command led to irreversible consequences. This underscores the importance of trust and obedience in God's plan. Looking back can cost you everything, whether it be sin, regret, or worldly desires. Turning back when God calls us forward can lead to destruction. Christ himself referenced Lot's wife as a warning for future generations. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever tries to keep their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will preserve it. With Sodom behind them, and the morning sun rising over the desolate plains, Lot and his daughters pressed on toward safety. They reached Zoar, a small city spared at Lot's request, but fear still gripped them. Would the destruction spread? Would Zoar be next? Unable to shake his terror, Lot abandoned the city and took refuge in the mountains, dwelling in a cave with his daughters. Here, stripped of possessions, status, and security, Lot found himself at his lowest point. His wife was gone, his home obliterated, and he was left alone with 2 daughters who had witnessed horrors beyond comprehension. But in this isolation, another fateful decision was about to be made, one that would carry consequences for generations to come. The morning after their dark deed, Lot's daughters carried a secret that would shape the course of history. They had conceived children through their own father. The weight of their actions would not be fully realized until generations later, when their offspring grew into nations that would stand as enemies of Israel, the Moabites and the Ammonites. Each daughter bore a son. The elder daughter named her son Moab, meaning from the father. The younger daughter named hers Ben-Ami, meaning son of my people. These names, though innocent in appearance, carried the shadow of their origins. The Moabites and Ammonites would become powerful tribes, but their foundation was built on sin, fear, and desperation. Lot's daughters' descendants would later shape biblical history, but not as allies of God's chosen people. Instead, they became fierce adversaries, standing against Israel and embracing idolatry, warfare, and rebellion. The Moabites worshipped Chemosh, engaging in detestable rituals that angered God. Moabite women later lured Israelites into idolatry, resulting in divine punishment. Numbers 25:1-9. Yet from this cursed lineage, Ruth emerged, a Moabite woman whose faith led her to become King David's great-grandmother, proving that God redeems even the darkest beginnings.
The Ammonites, who worshipped Molech, were known for child sacrifices. They warred against Israel and resisted God's plans. Even King Solomon, influenced by foreign wives, built altars to Ammonite gods, leading to Israel's downfall. Their story is a chilling reminder of how sin's consequences ripple through generations. The actions of Lot's daughters were born out of fear, but they created ripple effects that lasted for centuries. The Moabites and Ammonites, though given chances to align with Israel, repeatedly chose rebellion against God. What began as a desperate act in a cave led to entire nations steeped in sin and conflict. Sin never exists in isolation. What one generation tolerates, the next embraces. Desperation leads to destruction when God is not consulted. If Lot's daughters had trusted God, would he not have provided for them another way? God's mercy prevails even in brokenness. Though the Moabites and Ammonites often opposed Israel, God still extended grace. Ruth, a Moabite, became an ancestor of Jesus Christ. Lot's story is a sobering reminder that our choices have far-reaching consequences. What we justify in moments of weakness can shape the future for generations. Yet even in the darkest circumstances, God's redemption remains possible for those who turn back to Him. Dear family, help us spread the gospel by supporting our channel. Like this video, comment your thoughts, and share it with your friends. Together we can bring biblical stories to life and inspire hearts across the world. God bless you.